author, Tanya Williams, to talk about her book, A Child Free Happily Ever After. Congratulations.
Once upon a time, I was a little girl growing up in the 70s and 80s, and I had a cubby house that my dad had built for us one Christmas. Now, I lost track of the amount of time we spent in that cubby house playing. We had a huge dress-up box, a little mini shop, tables and chairs, and of course, dolls. We spent hours in there playing all the things that you do as a child. Mums and dads, dress-ups, we had a pretend shop. But how did we know what to play? We learnt by watching our parents and the adults around us, and we learnt that what little girls were supposed to do was to grow up and have babies. Yet I don't ever recall thinking that that would be my reality. I never felt that yearning or need to have a child, even as a little girl. For me, playing games in that cubby house was just simply a way to fill in time during school holidays and the weekends. However, I do confess to enjoying another kind of playtime, and that was me playing grown-up career woman. I would dress up in my favourite dress from the toy box. I would grab a handbag filled with play money, of course, and I would sashay out to the car, my pretend car, to go off to my pretend job. Now that felt right to me. My love of career continued in the 80s and 90s when powerhouse women were introduced into my world. TV shows like Melrose Place, Ally McBeal, Dynasty, Dallas, Murphy Brown. I wanted to be Alexis Carrington and Amanda Woodward just because they were kick-ass power women who had everything. They had fabulous hair, wardrobes, bank balances, and they seemed to have it all. And of course, they were all sporting the mandatory power shoulder pads, resting bitch face, all teamed with a classic 4-inch stiletto. These women were all about independence and all about defying the gender roles placed on them by society. The 80s was termed the me generation, all about materialism and success, but it had a profound impact on this little chickie too. In my influential teens, these women shaped my aspirations, my thinking, and my attitudes. And the one thing that many of them had in common? No babies. So not having children has allowed Shane and I to travel the world, and one of the favourite places that we visit is New York. Now, I am one of those OCD travel planners. I have lists, everything scheduled out. It's all like, ask my husband. I have multiple activities planned every day. And when things don't go according to plan, well, I'm not really well equipped to deal with it, lacking in patience and all that. But a series of random things happened on our last trip. And funnily enough, Shane was to blame for every single one of them. These random incidences led me to a very unexpected place. So the first one involved this Michael Kors watch, which I had seen before going to New York, and I wanted it right or wrong. And do you think we could find it anywhere? Of course not. And we're shopping at Woodbury Common, like you do, and Shane suggested I go into this random watch store, and what do you know? The first thing I saw was this watch, and even better, it was half price. Now, this was a store I would never have gone into. The second involved getting out of the subway at the wrong exit, meaning that I had to walk further than my already sore feet wanted me to. So as we're walking, and I'm not so silently cursing Shane for it being his job to get us from A to B, then I saw this store, these gorgeous chic prints of dogs in New York, which I absolutely loved. So in we go, and what do you know? The artist was in store and he signed his copy for me. And the third involved Sarah Jessica Parker. We took a wrong turn and we ended up walking past Bloomingdale's. And I spotted her shoe collection in the window. So I say to Shane, should we go in? He's like, we're here. It literally has just opened. So up we go to the second floor, and then I heard this voice. And over I look, it's Sarah Jessica Parker herself being interviewed for Elle magazine. Now, these are all small yet seemingly impactful decisions that took me off a path in an unexpected direction. And you need to understand, I am a type A control freak. Like, everything is planned, so deviating from plan is not always a good thing. And I'm really big on creating goals. So if you had have asked me a year ago if I was going to write a book, I would have told you you were crazy. But sometimes random things happen and we're not quite sure why at the time, but it all figures out. What I want you to think about is, how do we get to where we are today? When you think about the journey that our life takes us on, we need to consider the decisions and things that have influenced where that has taken us. As women, we're raised to become mothers. We have babies thrust upon us when we ourselves are babies. We read fairy tales like Cinderella and Snow White, where they get married and live happily ever after. We're taught female appropriate subjects like cooking, sewing, I think I missed those classes, English and art. We were told in the TV shows and the movies we watched, the news, society, our mothers, our grandmothers and our aunties, that in order to live happily ever after, you got married and had children. We were raised in a way that tied motherhood to our identities. So if that is our generation, then why am I the only one out of 24 cousins who chose not to have children? I say womanhood does not have to be linked to motherhood. What I want you to consider is what life is like as a child-free woman. Now, when you read about some of the stories and the experiences in this book, then you might consider how you'll change the conversations and the dialogue that you're having with all of the women in your life, not just the child-free ones. Child-free women experience rude questions and dire warnings about a loveless, barren future that we are going to regret, apparently. We're often described as strange, unnatural, selfish, and to some, not having a child is a social faux pas. There's an expectation that not only should we have children, but we should also want to have children. Now, I can tell you that my biological clock has never ticked. It's not even stuck on permanent snooze. It has no batteries. Now, I've never once yearned to procreate, and it doesn't make me weird or not a woman. It makes me who I am. I choose to live by my own rules and have other equally fulfilling parts of my life. I choose puppies over parenthood, being a rock star auntie, career, travel, giving back through charity, and shoes. Lots of shoes. Now, I had this idea for this book last July, so the process has taken, ironically, about 9 months, which is much like the process of giving birth. Now, my reward is obviously very different to the ones that you have when you have a child, but for me, they're equally as fulfilling and equally as important. Now, unlike a career choice or buying a pair of shoes, you can't change your mind when it comes to having a child. This book is a field guide, an anthropological study into why we feel the pressure to have kids and the different factors that influence our decision. What I need you to remember is it is all about the C word, choice. When you remember that we are all different and it's okay to defy the rules that are set by us, by society, and to make our own rules, then you're allowing the women around you to be who they truly are. This is not about mums versus non-mums. This is all about choice. Oops. We are all different. Every woman in this room has different strengths and weaknesses. Now, I am a total undomestic goddess, which most of my friends know. Last time I attempted to sew a button on, I sewed it to the pants that I was fixing as well as the pants I was wearing. That's a true story, don't laugh. Yet many of my friends here can whip up a gourmet meal or make a dress in a heartbeat. We're all different. So the C word should allow us to separate the term mother and woman. One is not dependent on the other. I'm not anti-kids, I'm anti-kids for me. And I choose over children. That's my C word of choice. I believe in choosing to live your life for you and blaze your own trail, because your parents and your friends will get over it. So like my random incidences in New York, sometimes you're supposed to go in a direction and you're not quite sure why at the time. Because sometimes going in the wrong direction is actually the right direction. And I think that's what this book is for me. Many people might think that I have gone in the wrong direction or done the right thing, but for me, not having children and now writing about it feels like the right thing to do and the right direction. What my trip to New York taught me was that sometimes when you choose to go in another direction or veer off path, you open yourself up to possibilities and opportunities that you could never have imagined. And there can be very fulfilling rewards for that. It's okay to want career success, travel, big shoulder pads and even bigger bank accounts. And it's okay to define the roles that are placed on us by society. Just like Amanda Woodward and Alexis Carrington, I wanted to find those gender roles and make my own rules. After all, this is not a dress rehearsal. And just like that little girl playing in the cubby house that her dad built for her, this grown-up girl understands the true significance of the games that she played. Now, I wrote a lot of this book when I was house sitting for a friend of mine, Darlene in Cairns. Now, Darlene is married with 4 kids who love their Auntie Tan, and I feel like a rock star every time I go to visit. Now, one night I was sitting there with Coco the dog and a glass of wine for company, and I looked around at the family photos, the kids' drawings, the games and the children's lives scattered all around. And I thought to myself, is this what I really want? Do I really want to live this child-free life? Did I actually secretly want this and I had been denying myself for all these years? I can honestly say no. I don't want the responsibility, the mess, the complication, the financial burden and the potential loss of my identity. I'm more than happy for my friends if that is what they want, and they know that, but it's just not for me. Now, this book has been a labour of love. Now, it's countless hours of writing, rewriting, editing, and hoping that I would end up with a final book that people would read, enjoy, and of course buy. And most importantly, that they would consider the conversations that they're having with each other, child-free or not, in society, because it's time to change that dialogue. Now, there are 2 people that I need to thank. Firstly, my amazing editor, Jackie, from the Grammar Factory. Now, I could not have done this without her honest feedback, direction, and guidance. She really helped shape this book into something that I'm really proud to call my own. And lastly, to the person who made it all possible, my husband, Shane. You are literally the wind beneath my wings. You've always allowed me to fly in whatever direction I've needed to, and you've always let me be me. And of course, you always let me get my own way, which is probably why we've been married for 23 years this weekend. I can honestly say I love you more now than what I did when we got married on the 11th of March 1995. So thank you. I also need to share some very special news with you that I received not long ago from my editor. A Child-Free Happily Ever After has made the bestseller categories on Amazon Australia, and we're in the top 10 at the moment and climbing for Amazon US. Shit just got real. So I thank everybody for coming here tonight and taking the time to celebrate this important life milestone with me. It means the world to me. So thank you so much. I know we all live very busy lives. To my child-free chicks, remember, you can live a child-free happily ever after. And to everybody here, never let anyone dull your sparkle.